Hey there, we are live. This is Mike Durr, Kingwood Mortgage Guy, and I'm here with Joe Salas, real estate guru, self-proclaimed, as we all are. Is that
Yeah.
actually
How you doing,
Joe?
Mike?
I'm good. Joe's with Byrd Properties and Purple Paint Inspections, and I am the Kingwood Mortgage Guy and self-proclaimed credit scoring guru. I've got something fun to show you today as we're talking, but we're just talking about what the week was like, and today was an interesting day, and the market spin is pretty bizarre and crazy. But if you're thinking about real estate, this is going to give you some insights that you may not get just anywhere else. Joe, tell me what's new today.
That's it, my man. My wife still recovering. We found out she had COVID, so
Oh
she's been
no.
stuck in the upstairs dungeon, I guess you can call it, our bedroom, for like the last week. I'm pretty sure she feels like Rapunzel and trying to grow her hair down out the closet out the window. But day 8, I believe, day 7 or 8, so she's almost done with it, Lord
Did
willing.
you, did you
All
have
of
it
us
bad?
in the house, we've been pretty well, no other sicknesses. So hopefully, unfortunately, she may be the only one, but hopefully she is the only one that
Yeah,
got sick in our house. So
man, I know that's tough. When Sandy and I got it, we got it together and we kind of wrote it out together. And it really, in our case, it wasn't that bad. So,
yeah, it hasn't been super bad. The worst thing is, I guess you could say, you ever see that movie with Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom?
yeah. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I've gotten pretty good at cooking grilled cheeses on the ironing board, but other than that, the kids have been good. They've been well behaved, and Uber Eats is a wonder of the world these days. I can
Yeah.
do that right now.
Staple. The guy, you get to know the guys that deliver that stuff. That's funny. All right. Well, I put together a little presentation that we're going to kind of go through, and you're welcome to jump in there anytime to talk about this. But this is Better Credit, Better Home. We titled it that way because, one, I do credit stuff every day, feel pretty good about it, about how I can help people with that. And then Better Home, guess what? If you have better credit, you got a better chance of getting a better home. And Joe's about the better home because he's a paint home inspector on top of being a real estate agent. And we think that that can bring value to you guys just as insights into what's going on in the home market. So here we go. We're going to get here. And this is what we're going to cover today. I always like to throw something in there for a little housing humor. We're going to talk about raising your credit score. And I've got a specific example. We're going to talk about the housing supply. We're going to talk about buying homes. We're going to talk about the housing bubble. And for people that we're going to give you an announcement to stop searching for housing bubble because it's self-proclaiming or proclamating or whatever. Rates rising this week. No sooner than I put that out, that rates changed and they got a little lower today. And then lock and shop. So that's kind of where we're going. If any of that interests you, hang on. We're going to enjoy the ride. So this is one I thought was kind of cute. The young man out there got his tree house listed for sale, open house, balloons, the whole work. And his mom saying, yes, there's a housing shortage and you could make a killing, but no. And the dad's back there saying, hold on, how much are we talking here? So I thought that was pretty cute. Joe, the house you inspected, the appraisal just came in on the house that I'm selling over on D Woods.
Yeah.
What do you think the appraisal came in?
What did we price it, or what did you price it at? I can't remember.
I priced it at $269.
What'd you get your offer in? Oh, well, no, don't go into that detail. Let's see. I'm going to go with 275.
280.
280. Congratulations, my man. That's awesome.
Awesome or what? That is awesome. This kid's riding high. But anyway, yeah. Before you put it up there, it'll likely sell, and it might surprise you how much it'll sell for. All right, we're shifting over to the credit issues here. And this is a credit bureau that I pulled recently. And the top borrower, we call the borrower, has scores of 643, 618, and 604. And the interesting part about this is the co-borrower has a 694, a 686, and a 679. So this is a married couple, and the lower, or the co-borrower, co-applicant, as it says right now, has not only better scores, but if you look at this, these are what they call potential score improvement here. But it doesn't matter how much she improves her score or their score, because the credit bureaus or the lenders use the lower of the two applicants, right? So really the challenge is here. Now, you might ask, how does she, or how do they improve their scores down there? This is usually very specific, and it's related to the balances on your credit cards, revolving credit. And if she pays down her credit cards, she can gain these points, and this is substantial. So she's going to go from a sub 700 to probably 750 if she chose to do that. Here's the trick. Down here, this guy has very little credit card debt. Matter of fact, he has no credit card debt. And spouse has 3 or 4 credit cards. So the real easy fix on this is for her to make him a authorized signer on a couple of her credit cards. And he would instantly get, gosh, it could be a 30, 40 point boost easy. And all of a sudden, they're qualifying at a much lower interest rate. And of course, he gets a better score without doing anything. He just gets to piggyback on her credit scores, her good credit. So this is not an unusual situation.
Some people may ask, Mike, why don't you just remove the lower person with the credit score? Well, my guess is probably income, right?
Yeah, it's all about the income. In this particular case, this couple together are going to qualify for an okay house, but by herself, she will not qualify for very much house, or not the house they want to buy. So obviously we want to keep him on there, and we want them to do everything we can to maximize his score because the complement of his income. Now, it's not unusual for there be a primary breadwinner in each house. And of course, if that's the one that has the higher score, you can do that all day long. But in this case, it just is better for the team, this team applicant, to have their scores more consistent. And it's pretty easy to do. So anyway, I thought that might be interesting to somebody that is a situation like that. And just knowing all the little nuances of what you can do with credit can make a big difference. And so that is all I have to say about that. So let's move on to the next slide. Home construction is up. I found this kind of an interesting article. It talks about what's going on in the building industry. And the building industry is actually very active. They're building 25% more homes, particularly. And I don't think this slide is going to come through. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's broken down by region. And it's Northwest, Midwest, South, and West. Am I reading that right? Northeast, Midwest, South, and West. And if you look at my little red circles there, I've got the South and then the number of construction homes going up in this area. And this South construction area makes up almost as much as the other 3 regions do all by itself. So I thought that was interesting. So there's just a lot of stuff going on here, and that is good for inventory. Okay, and what do you think we need in this industry right now, Joe? What would help you if you had a little more inventory?
Inventory, actually, pre-owned homes, yes. New homes, there's, depending on the price range, there's a good amount of inventory out there right now, to the point where some of the builders are even starting to offer BTSAs again. You remember those, Mike?
Oh, yeah. That's encouraging. Yeah. Well, it's the time of year, and I know it's got to do, the thing that came up today is, well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to go ahead and go through these slides. I like to talk about this kind of stuff, and Joe hates it. I know he does, but you can a lot of times buy the house that you may be renting. Last week we talked about buying a house from a family member. This is buying a house from your landlord. And we see a lot of these. People call us out of the blue. I guess, they find us on the internet or whatever. And by the way, yeah, you can find me on the internet too. Just look up Kingwood Mortgage Guy. But we help people kind of structure this. We give them some coaching, how to fill out some of the forms, get them to the title company so that they know how to get things done. And it's in a market where it's hard to find a house. This is a real deal. And so if you're renting a house from a landlord, you might find out if they want to sell that. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So I'm just rocking along. We're going to have like a 5-minute session today. So this was a interesting article, and it's the Google search trend, housing bubble is trending. And the emphasis of that is that there are a lot of people trying to figure out who has what to say about a housing bubble. And Joe, we've talked about it the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we're going to get to talk about it again because that seems to be one of the things that people are interested in. I have my ideas on why people are interested in the housing bubble, but what would you say about that this week? What would you say this week about that?
This week, I'm going to still say I'm on the fence. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be what it was back when, everybody refers to the housing bubble of 2008, 2009. Don't necessarily think it's going to be there. I think there is going to be a little bit of adjustment in the market. But as far as what we've seen over the last few months here in Texas and with the migration of people from out of state, I don't think necessarily we'll feel it as bad, if it does happen, as bad as other areas of the United States and different states. I feel like our economy and the influx of people here has to a certain extent, proven that we're resilient to that bubble here locally.
Well, I agree. Let me turn this off real quick. So here's where I come down on this: is it's a situation where the interest rate, the rise in interest rate, is affecting the amount of houses that are selling, the crazy people waiting in line to get houses. And I do absolutely believe that it's going to bring this market closer to normal than it's been. And I think it'll happen this year. I think we'll see a lot more normal-like market, which means that there won't be 15 offers on a house in the first 30 minutes that it's online. But I do have confidence that because Texas is still one of the least expensive places to live in the United States, I think the fact that we actually do have air conditioning is a factor that will remain that way as long as they can keep the power on. And we're starting to catch up. I mean, I'm working with a couple people, as a matter of fact, from West Virginia, and they're buying here in Texas because they see this as one of the better places right now to live for the masses. I mean, and the number of people that are moving, I think I saw something to the effect that it's like 1,000 people a month are moving to Houston. And of Houston, Dallas, and Austin, which are the 3 most popular cities right now, there are more people moving to Houston. And that's because the Dallas and the Austin markets are already priced higher than we are. Now, long range, could there be some kind of bubble? There could be. But I don't see it being any kind of disaster thing that is going to negatively affect anybody that's considering buying right now. But that's just where I feel about it. I mean, I've heard people say if it goes up, it's got to come down. Well, the first house that I bought and sold, I bought it for $37,000, and guess what? It's worth about $300,000 now. So you think it's coming down? It's not going to come down to $37,000. It's going to continue going up because homes appreciate and real estate appreciates. And I still think it's one of the best financial investments that you could ever make. And so I wouldn't be afraid. But that's what driving this Google search trend is, that it's fear that they're going to lose money. And I don't know. I don't think that there's, unless you make a mistake, and we've talked about this before, Joe, unless you get bad advice from a real expert, get crazy in love with a property that's not good property, I think you're going to do fine.
You know what I've seen lately, Mike? I deal with investors a lot as well. The adjustments from the appraisal districts are making the investors a little bit more shy this year. Some adjustments went up. If you had a homestead on your house, maximum 10%, but some adjustments of the appraised market value of the house have gone up upwards of 30 or more percent.
Wow.
On the appraised value of the house. So that is making the investor market a little bit more shy until that kind of gets settled and the dust is settled from last year to this year's appraised values. When they do their calculations on their return on investments, because these are business transactions, they are a little bit more shy to pull the trigger currently until those values are kind of settled a little bit.
Well, there's no doubt that you've got to be shrewd when you are buying investment property. I'll give an example. A lot of people, and I think that this is probably, you can relate to this too, is a lot of people have moved in, it's their first time house, and they keep that house and they rent it after that. And they built up enough equity to buy another house, and they're not planning on selling it. And I think that that's a pretty good investment strategy, because you started with a rate that was hopefully lower than what you're going to be getting now. It's surely going to be lower than the investment property if you were to buy one straight out. But the whole thing about the investment property, because of you get multiple ways to profit from it, whether it's cash flow or just appreciation, the two obvious ones, and the tax advantage would be the third one. It's just a good investment, and you can do it either way. But if you can do it with paying the lower rates, the rates that you did when you were, particularly the last 3 years, you're going to win. And obviously, it comes with headaches. It's like any business. You got to cater to it. You got to keep the property up. You got to take care of the tenants. You got to do all that stuff. But if you're up for it and up for making a good investment and holding it for a while, you'll do well. So keep buying those properties. I mean, I don't see anything out there that's telling anybody to stop and not buy properties right now. That's just where I'm coming down on. Of course, I'm totally unbiased. No, I'm biased. I'm totally biased. I think real estate's the best investment out there. And unless you got somebody call in or somebody tell me it's better investment than real estate right now. No, not working. No. Anyway, that's how I come down on that. So I will move on. All right, so mortgage rates. So I finally sent you over that chart. And what I tried to do today was I wanted to put this little box up here in the right corner, or it's to my right, it may be to your left, that shows what the interest rates on a 30-year conventional loan are today. And the 5.36 is what was showing up. And no sooner than I put that puppy up there is that this news bulletin came out and said home sales were much lower than were expected, which turned the bond market around. And the bond market, when there's bad news, that they consider this bad news, when there's lower than expected housing sales, that's good news for rates. And rates have probably come down from that 5.36 to, I would guess 5.25 or something to that effect. So I try to make this as current as it possibly can. Now, keep in mind, we're doing FHA loans in the 4.5% range. And, the payment on the first 5 or 6 years on an FHA loan will generally be lower than it will on a conventional loan. Conventional is better because it doesn't have the mortgage insurance, but that's a whole explanation I can make for you if you want to call me or find me on the internet. But thought that was good news. We always like to see rates. I was looking at this and I saw, okay, rates are starting to move again. And then no sooner than I said that, then some news, which used to affect rates more than the fact that whether the Fed was buying them or not, actually changed the rate term. So Uh, I think this is positive. I think there is a leveling out of what interest rates are doing. I don't love the fact that it's at 5.35 or 5.25 or whatever. I think on this chart, this is kind of interesting. I don't think I can move that, but this is where we are right now. This is like last week, I think, when this chart came out. And if you just went straight across that, you can see that, the rates have been pretty good for probably the last 6 or 7 years. But prior to that, even all the way up, and this had to be in the early mid 80s here, but back in 1971, rates have just been higher. I mean, so in the scheme of things, historically, these are bargain rates, and I don't know if they're going to hold. They could go to 7-8%. I'm not predicting that, but I have seen a leveling out in the 5% range, hovering in that area. So that could be good news for some people. I didn't mean to go. Let's see. I wanted to go. Oh, I thought I had one more slide up there. Where'd it go? Well, I had one, and it talked about this whole thing. It talked about sales for houses being up, rates being up, but there was something that was down, and I don't remember what it was. Anyway, okay, never mind about that. You have to get that one next week. This is the last thing I wanted to promote is my lock and float type option. So if rates go up, but if you could lock in your rate today, that'd be a good thing. Wouldn't you think, Joe?
I think so.
Yeah. So really what could happen is if rates are going to go up, but you lock in a rate today, then you're going to beat that rising. It's going to save you money. And we now have 2 lenders that are using these programs to allow you to lock today and lock for up to 6 months, which is crazy. The crazy part about it is that sometimes it takes that long to get a house. And we've just closed on a couple of houses that people were in the market for 3 or 4 months just trying to get the right house. But anyway, I want you to call me at the 281-348-9899 if you're interested in looking at locking and then going out and shopping to keep the interest rates where they are, as opposed to now the beauty of this, just because you lock it doesn't mean you're stuck to that particular rate. If rates get better, you'll still get the lower rate.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I'm sure there's people asking 2 things. One, what the question that you just answered, and then 2, what's the cost of this program? Is there a cost?
There is not a cost on this. So
very good.
And just as a foreshadowing of next week, we're looking at the option of being able to take a borrower that's going to borrow money to buy the house to make cash offers. Have you heard of this? You probably have. So
yeah, a little bit. I mean, this is not hard money loans.
Not hard money.
Yeah,
there is a cost. This is, well, you know what? I'm going to wait to. Shadowing. We'll talk about it next week.
There you go. Keep them. What do they call those? Cliffhangers.
That's right.
That's your cliffhanger, Mike.
It's an interesting way to do it, and I think it's a way that a lot of people might take advantage of. So
yeah, I'm interested in hearing about it.
Anyway, so Joe, I don't have much else. I've been rambling the whole time. I didn't get you a chance to talk. So talk to me. What's going on?
That's all good, my man. Don't have really much this week. Kind of feel like I've been burning candles at both ends with my wife being sick and taking care of kids, and had a few inspections, and then taking care of the real estate sales business. If anybody needs a grilled cheese sandwich made on the ironing board, give me a call. Definitely would love to help you out with that or anything else in regards to real estate sales or inspections. One of the things I did want to mention, though, it's a little bit late in the year to protest your appraisal district appraised value of your home. But it is an important reminder to everybody that those things are important and can affect the total cost of your home as seen by purchasers out there. So stay on top of that yearly. Definitely, if you haven't filed for your homestead exemption, file for that at the appropriate time. That would restrict the maximum increase on the value of your home to 10% max. That is something that can be helpful to lessen the tax burden that you have on your property. So definitely, if you need some help with that, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. I'm not an expert at taxes by any means, but it is something that has come up in the last couple of deals that I've been doing for investor clients. They look at the leased property, the per unit lease, and they look at the property value, and also look at the maintenance and HOAs and taxes come into play as far as their yearly expenses or things that they're involved in, and sometimes currently that's been scaring away a couple of my investors. So stay on top of that as a property owner, not just your homestead, but also as a property owner. It is something that I recommend that you protest those increases, especially something as crazy as a 33% increase, which is what we saw on one of these houses.
Well, I totally agree. I think that's a great way to end the broadcast, that it will just save you hundreds of dollars a year. I mean, that's the bottom line. Yep. And I make a practice to challenge my taxes every year. I mean, you might as well, it's a battle. It's a war between who thinks that your house is more and how much money they want to collect from you. So just be on it, man. And I don't know, I think you may have a week left to finish this, or maybe the rest of this week before you can protest.
There was I can't speak specifically per each appraisal district, so the rules might be different, but one of the appraisal districts that we were dealing with, the Conroe appraisal district, we are past the time that they allowed you to file it without an appropriate, I guess we can call an excuse of why you're late.
Gotcha.
So there is still time. You would have to file that request and maybe even offer some evidence of why you're late. But definitely, as you go forward in time, year by year, keep on top of that. That is helpful for you as a homeowner and future home seller. Let's say that.
Absolutely. Okay, Joe. Well, thanks for joining me. It's always good to be with you and hang out and learn.
I love it, Mike. I'm excited. That cliffhanger that you left us with this week, I can't wait to hear what that program is next week.
All right. Yeah. We'll talk about it next week. That'll be for sure. All right. We're going to end the broadcast. If anybody has reason to call us, my number's on there. Joe, your number's, let's see. I'm going to put
it's on there, 346-224-4224. Give me a holler if you need me.
There he is. You got it. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.